I want to show you the gun that Mangione had on him when he was arrested today. Okay, so this is what was found in his backpack. So let's just hold it up here. We'll tell you what you know about it. We know that police say that that gun was made on a 3D printer, that it also had a suppressor with it in the backpack with a type of silencer. He did, in addition, have a loaded Glock magazine, 6.9mm full metal jacketed rounds. Out front now, our security correspondent, Josh Campbell, former FBI. And Josh, the suspect today was arrested with this made on a 3D printer. We do know that he had an undergraduate degree as well as a master's degree, engineering, AI, technology. That's his background. What more can you tell us about the gun?
Well, this very gun, Erin, has law enforcement concerned across the country. The rise in so-called ghost guns. These are often untraceable, essentially self-assembled guns. In this case, as you mentioned, it appears that he might have printed this himself on a 3D printer. A lot of these gun parts you can buy online and essentially assemble them yourself. And of course, the big concern, they don't come with serial numbers. That makes it difficult for law enforcement to trace, and they don't require background checks. Now, the Biden administration has recently tried to increase penalties and stop the distribution of some of these types of guns. Of course, someone intent on causing a homicide is probably not going to be, worried about serial number violations. But the key question now is tying that gun to that crime scene. And here's how it's done. I went inside an ATF laboratory, which showed how this forensic testing is done. Essentially, they take the firearm, they will fire that weapon, collect the bullet, and collect the shell casing that is ejected out of the firearm. Much like a fingerprint, that impression left on the bullet and the shell casing leaves a unique signature. With these, analysts will essentially put under a microscope in order to try to determine, is this the weapon, similar in characteristic to the shell casings found at the crime scene.
All right, Josh, thank you very much. I want to bring in firearms expert Steve Wolf. So, Steve, we've got a picture of the ghost gun found in the shooting. Found on the suspect, I'm sorry. So this is what he had. And I just want to note here, you've got a gun, and you have a silencer, they say, on a 3D printed machine. But I just want to emphasize one other thing that I had said. I said that there was a loaded Glock magazine with 6.9mm full metal jacketed rounds. Now, John Miller was just discussing that he thought that that could mean, and very much would leave open the possibility, that Luigi Mangione was intending to continue and perhaps assassinate somebody else. What stands out to you about all of this?
Well, I think if he used the ammo that he needed in New York and he had extra, that doesn't necessarily indicate he was going to do anything additional with it. I'm also not sure that the gun that was found on him was the same gun. We saw the gun. This is very similar to the B&T, and you see this is round over here, and this slide pulls back. If you take a close look at the slide on that, you'll see it looks nothing like the slide on the 3D printed gun, which has got a square slide, extends back and holds itself open. So there's really no comparison in my mind that the B&T Station 6 that was claimed to be the gun used is the same gun that was in his backpack.
So you think it's possible that it had been described as sort of a veterinary gun, that may indeed be the gun still that he used in the shooting in Midtown Manhattan, maybe he disposed of it. I know they've been dredging waters in Central Park, but that this would be separate, that the gun that was today was a different gun.
That's my belief based on what I've seen of the guns, yes. The gun that was recovered on him today doesn't look anything like a B&T Station 6, which is the gun that they said was used in the murder.
I'm curious because people have been talking about his background, his technology, engineering degrees. Would that make it easier, as you see it, for someone who, at this point, we don't know whether he had shooting range experience or anything like that, although we've heard nothing about that to this point. Would it be easier for someone with that kind of just general background to be able to print a gun like this and actually use it successfully to kill somebody?
Well, the B&T wasn't printed. The gun that he was found with today is the one that had a printed frame. Most of those parts, though, are not printed. They're metal. So we're just talking about the plastic frame, which, not a huge consequence as a function of the gun in total.
All right. Well, Steve, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much for explaining some of this. Thank you.
Absolutely, Erin. Thank you.
We've been reporting that the man being held in custody for the killing of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson was in possession of a so-called ghost gun when he was searched by local police at a McDonald's this morning. Now, according to the criminal complaint, the pistol and the accompanying black silencer were both 3D printed. The weapon is capable of firing 9mm rounds like the ones used in the shooting. Ghost guns are untraceable, self-assembled firearms often put together from parts sold online, no background check required. I want to get perspective now from Kenneth Corey, former chief of department and chief of training for the New York Police Department. He's a CNN law enforcement analyst and also joining us is former Secret Service agent Jonathan Wackrow. Chief Corey, how easy is it for someone to get their hands on parts to assemble a ghost gun?
Yeah, these exploded in popularity just a couple of years ago, right? Ghost gun is the slang term for what the ATF calls a privately made firearm. And, you hit it, Anderson, right? You select all the parts, you order them online, maybe from different vendors, they all get delivered to you, and you just kind of put it together yourself. With the firearm in question, where you mentioned 3D printing, the parts would be 3D printed. They're the lower receiver, where the grip is, the trigger guard. Everything else is going to be made out of steel.
Jonathan, the criminal complaint said that the gun and the silencer were both 3D printed. Do you think that's true? What does it tell you?
Well, I mean, it could be true. I mean, I don't see why the criminal complaint would not have the accuracy of the weapon in it. But Anderson, what I want to talk about is the ghost gun is actually the perfect complement to what law enforcement refers to as the pathway to violence. And we think about that pathway to violence. It's we're almost looking at a pure model here. We're talking about someone who had an initial grievance. They I believe we're going to find some violent ideations that are coming out of this individual. A lot of research and preparation, all which went in prior to the attack. So if you think about ghost guns, they're really an attractive option, for various suspects, and this suspect in particular. Just as we were talking about, that untraceability is a key factor of it. The easy to obtain factor of it, buying it online. Again, if we think about all of the action steps that this suspect took in advance of the attack, it was very well thought out. Now, some of the execution was sloppy, but really, purchasing this weapon, potentially online or having it made himself, via 3D printing, again, goes to that level of preparation. And then really with ghost guns, it's that rapid assembly. You need to have very little skill. You don't need to be an armorer to put these weapons together to make them a functioning firearm. All of this speaks further to the premeditation that this suspect had to cause harm against this executive.
Chief Corey, does it make sense? I mean, given now you've seen the weapon that he was found with, in the video, there's we froze it on that moment right before the shooting, but then there's video of him what looks like maybe a malfunction, or there was some thought when it was the veterinary gun that's the kind of gun that you actually would actually have to, for each bullet, put it into the chamber. Does it make sense to you why the gun may have malfunctioned, or he was there kind of handling the gun in the way that he was with this weapon?
No, I think what happens here is that the addition of the suppressor on the pistol reduces the velocity so much. There's also a chance that he used subsonic ammunition, right, to try to be a little more quiet. So the slide isn't going to function as intended. It's not going to cycle all the way back and fully chamber a new round. And I think that's what accounts for those 3 live rounds that are found at the scene, in addition to the 3 spent shells. He fires a round, ejects the shell, but lacks the force to fully seat the next round in the chamber. And so he has to rack the slide manually. When he does that, every time he kicks out a live round and chambers up a new one. That would happen either with the ghost gun or with a store-bought, regular manufactured firearm, if you didn't modify the spring to allow for the suppressor.
Jonathan, were you surprised the suspect still had the gun, which was loaded, on him when he was apprehended?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the items of evidentiary value that he had on his person are a little bit shocking. I mean, typically what you see when someone commits such a violent crime and then does have the ability to escape, during that escape route, they are trying to shed those items of evidentiary value so it doesn't trace back to him. I mean, you think about the level of thought that went into the planning of this attack. He put a lot of thought into getting away, how he would get away, that escape route. Maintaining that is really interesting to me. These could be, trophies that he wanted to have in the event that he was caught. The manifesto, that two-page letter explaining, really sort of the rationale, his intent for doing this, helps him control that narrative. Maintaining, the weapon in the silencer, again, either leads to, was there more to come? or was this something that he was holding on to as remembrance of this tragic act? I mean, time will tell. Hopefully, he is talking to police. Hopefully, we'll be able to understand a little bit more about what was he intending to do next, if he wasn't caught by the officers in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.